What's going on, Falcon fan? This is your boy Ricardo coming back at you with another video. Hey guys, today we're gonna talk about the Super Bowl 2025 season is officially over. On to 2026. Also gonna give you an update of the James Pierce Jr. um situation, what's going on with that. And we'll talk about some reports that we got. Like I said, guys, personally for me, we're gonna wait until all the smoke clears and things like this. But from what we're getting, details, um, you know, um, it don't sway to his side, right? But of course, you have to let the legal system play out and things like that. He is out of custody down in Miami-Dade County. He's probably back at the crib. And we'll get into that today. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys are here to talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come here and talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So, like I said, we're gonna start off with the not so good stuff, and we'll talk about the James Pierce Jr. update. Um, what's going on with him and his situation? Like I said, he was released today, yesterday, not today, yesterday from um custody. His bond was $20,500. So currently, I think he's charged with 5 charges. And if you want to look at those details, I talked about them last show. You can go look at all those charges that he was charged with. But right now you have to let the legal portion, takes its place. Of course, he did hire counsel and things like that. So we'll definitely get to take a look and see about the counsel and stuff like this. But here is the actual statement from his attorney. So we're going to talk about that. So the statement from his attorney, we look forward to working with the state attorney office in fully investigating the case and uncovering the truth. Mr. Pierce maintains his innocence and urges the public to understand why allegations have been power to shape a narrative that is hardly the full, complete story. We will look forward vigorously defending our client and remain confident that he will continue to be contribute to both his team and his community. So that's the statement from Michael Penix. Not Michael Penix, damn. James Pierce Jr. My bad, Mike. I don't want to put you in that situation. James Pierce Jr.'s legal team, right? That's pretty much what they said. So, of course, all these charges is out, and right now it's look like five felony charges. I think that I read somewhere, and I don't know if this 100% true, right? Because so much stuff on social media these days, you really don't know what to believe. To be honest with you, but it said that he could get up to 5 years in prison, right? So we just don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't think he has any more criminal issues. If he did, I'm not aware of. So this will be his first offense. So either way, he could definitely be fine with this. So that's really you know what could be the case in this. Now, it was a police report filed by his I guess now ex-girlfriend, and we're gonna quickly go over what she reported to the police officer. Like I said, this is what she reported. Of course, you just heard what he said in his statement that most of it is not true. So this one you get to the he say she say stuff, right? If no witnesses and things like that, really don't know who to believe. So, but this is what she reported, and this is the statement from the the other person that's involved in this issue. So her statement is um the account detailed ex-boyfriend Junior Saturday morning. Jackson, who recently ended the 3-year relationship with Pierce, told officers she had blocked his phone number and to prevent further contact. Despite this, Pierce reached out using an alternate number text message from Pierce continued through Friday and until Saturday morning, even after Jackson explicitly told him via text on Friday afternoon to leave her alone. And she wanted nothing more to do with him. She showed these messages to the police as evidence of the ongoing unwanted communication. On Saturday morning, Jackson reported noticing that Pierce following her vehicle in a white Lamborghini SUV. When both cars stopped at the red light, Pierce exited the SUV and attempted to open the driver's side door to Jackson's car. Fearing for her safety, Jackson accelerated away and immediately began driving towards the Dorrell Police Department. All right, let's go to the next here. Pierce re-entered his vehicles and continued to pursue a high rate of speed, according to Jackson's statement. While en route to the police station, she said Pierce intentionally collided into the rear vehicle with his SUV. As Jackson neared the intersection close to the police station, she described Pierce cutting her off with his vehicle, blocking her path. When she tried to back away to escape, Pierce allegedly used his SUV to collide with the car. Photographs taken of Jackson's vehicle show damage consistent to both the rear end and the front end impact noted in the police report. So, last but not least, Jackson called the rail police, who responded at the scene near the station. Officer located Pierce standing outside of his SUV with the driver door open, and the officer drew a weapon and ordered him to the ground. But Pierce got back in his vehicle, locked the doors, and drove away, striking the officer in the left knee. In process, per the affidavit, police pursued Pierce until he crashed at an intersection, fled on foot, and was eventually apprehended. So, guys, that's what the his ex-girlfriend reported, and that's what's the details from the police report. So, um, now we just heard from the lawyer what they said. He saying he's innocent. Most of this stuff is not true. Then you hear from the police report what they reportedly put out there, or the incident or what took place. So it's going to be he say she say. Um, like I said, of course, all the evidence, the car, the text messages, all that stuff is going to come out. If it's text messages before that, to figure out what's going on, we just don't know. But at the same time, listen to all the information. From his standpoint, it don't look positive, right? That's what it seems like the case. It does not look positive. So that's pretty much where it stands right now. Now, from a football standpoint, because I know this is a football show, so that's a a civil domestic dispute between two individuals, and whatever happens with that, that's on the legal side. On the football side, um, you know, if he does not go to jail, right? If he gets the sentence reduced and things like that, he's not convicted of some of those charges. More than likely, he will get suspended, right? So if you look at what they did to Rashid Rice last season, he had an incident on the highway where he wrecked the car, hurt some individual, then he fled the scene, right? He got 6 games for that, right? This could be similar into to that aspect, besides the part from the domestic stuff, right? Because, you know, you know, public opinion already pretty much has condemned this kid. So that's the way it's looking like. So he's either way it goes, you know, if he's able to stay in the NFL and he does not go to jail, now he has to try to remake his image. And the question would be then, does the Falcon want to be part of that? That's really what it really boils down to. Um, Now let's go back to Arthur Blank's history here, right? So you go back to the Michael Vick incident, right? Michael Vick got arrested, got into trouble. Of course, we know what happened with that. He went and talked to Arthur Blank. Arthur Blank told him, asked him right in his face, is that true? What happened? And Michael Vick denied it, right? And he also admitted that he denied the same thing to Roger Cadell. So these are two guys, and if you this is where Michael Vick did his whole documentary, guys. So this is what he stated. He lied to Arthur Blank, then he lied to Roger Cadell because he thought he was going to get away with it. So he lied to both of those guys, right? So, but we do know that Arthur Blank, had Michael Vick back at that time. We do know that he was 100% behind Michael Vick, so he was there. Uh, now go back 3 years ago, probably 3 years ago, when Deshaun Watson went through his incidents, right? And we know that Arthur Blank was willing to have Deshaun Watson come into the organization as well with all the accusations that he had. So it is a an avenue for James Pierce Jr. if he does not go to jail and you know and does this suspension. It is an avenue where Arthur Blank is willing to have James Pierce Jr. stay with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, in my opinion, it will be, some PR issues that they're gonna have a fix with that. They're gonna have to answer a lot of questions. Why you're willing to do this, do that. So that's gonna be, once all this resolved. But we really don't know what's going on right now. We just know, the statements that have been put out, the reports that have been put out, things like that, you know, and the legal process has to play out. But if the NFL decides that they're going to get the conduct policy, it is what it is, right? Nobody died in this case, nobody got hurt in this case, right? So his punishment is going to be his punishment. However, if he does not go to jail, I think he may be able to stay in the NFL, right? And then now that what goes back to the Atlanta Falcons and what would the Atlanta Falcons decide to do. So um pretty much I think that's where we should leave it at for now, right? Because we don't know any more details. We know what his lawyer's statement was. We know what the police report said. Now it's up to the legal process to take place, where everybody gather the evidence and things like that, and decide where they want to go with this, right? And in the meantime, what the NFL and the Atlanta Falcons need to do, just do their own investigation as well, because it's usually what's going to happen. They're going to get their information, get their details, and do their due diligence as well. So, if he is cleared of this stuff, they can go ahead and make their judgment on what the punishment is going to be. It will be a punishment from the NFL. You can believe that, because some of this stuff definitely could have been avoided 100%, avoided 100%. There's no way that he's going to get off, with no punishment from the NFL, even if he is cleared from the legal process down in Miami-Dade. So something's going to happen in this case. We just don't know. But I believe that at this point in time, everybody should just take a step back and see what happens. Um, so a lot of things right here. A lot of people are already ready to condemn the kid and throw him to the wolves, right? But at this point in time, we just don't know. We have to wait to see. Let it work out. We used to always believe that you're innocent until proven guilty. So let the legal process play out, right? Public opinion, I can probably almost 100% guarantee that most people think he's freaking guilty as hell. So, but we don't know. So until we get more information, this is that police report. It's all swayed towards what her side of what happened, right? So it's gonna look like he's that guilty, but we ain't heard his side, so we have to hear it um, and see what the case may be. But at this point in time, I think you need to let legal process play out. Now, if I was the NFL, I would put him on the commissioner exempt list. I don't know, if they change that policy and things like that, because there'd just be too much of a, especially for a new regime coming in for Atlanta Falcons to have to answer questions day in and day out. Even for him to be able to answer questions about it as well, even though he probably won't answer no questions, right? And you know, and trust me, when it's all over, he probably will have to have a press conference and sit there and you know give his you know sorrows and ask for forgiveness and things like that. But we'll see what happens. But at this point in time, we just don't know if he's done. Now, when we first read it, the information that was coming out the other day, I pretty much like, man, yeah, he's done, he's done, right? But we just don't know, right? Um, all those charges, it's a lot of charges. Now, if he get convicted of all those charges, it is what it is. But if it's more to the story, like I said, we don't know all the story. We just have to wait to see what happens. So that's the way you're looking at it. Hey, let's see what happens. Let's get some of these comments out here. And say JPJ case was just on ABC News. Pretty sure it was. I like it, lawyer. Get that man free. Cause we're gonna see what he says. Recover, they said that all that on ABC News when the case on the main news station like ABC is not good news for James Pierce Jr. Yeah, like I said, man, it's one side too. We're gonna find out what happened with it. So um but yeah, those are pre-charges, like the judge say. They're investigate first prove the charges. I hate the media because things get out of prematurely. Yeah, they just stay. And always, like I said, public opinion. Public opinion is crucial nowadays. It's because it's so much news. You get stuff from social media, you get stuff from news outlets. You can hear everywhere. So public opinion, the man already guilty. James Pierce Jr. becoming LT, did the kind of things off the field and still got to the Hall of Fame. Shit, we don't even trust me. We don't even know half of the stuff Lawrence Taylor did because guess what? There wasn't no cell phones and all that stuff out. We heard some stories, but it's probably he probably did more crazy shit than we probably would ever know. Him, guys like Dennis Rodman, those guys, man, they lucky it wasn't no social media back in the day when they was in. There wasn't any conduct policy. Then those guys was got away with much more. Oh hell yeah, they got away with a lot back in the day. Um, did he really endanger a police officer in Florida? Port said he hit a cop, so we don't know how true that is. If that's the case, well, hey, hey man, we don't know. We don't know. But guys, that's simple. That's the update on him. Like I said, what we have to do, just wait, to stand by and see what happens. Um, like I said the other day, at this point in time for him, he don't need to worry about football, right? You know, things like that. He need to work on his legal case and try to clear himself of all this stuff that he's been charged with, and try to clean his image back up, because that's what it's going to really boil down for him. So those are kind of things that we definitely will have to see from James Pierce Jr. So that's what we'll definitely find out. But in the meantime, hey, that's what's going on with him, right? When we might hear more information as more information come out, something new, we'll come back on here and talk about it. But right now, that's where it is. We haven't heard something interview or anything from the Atlanta Falcons organization. We probably won't hear nothing from them until the combine, when all those guys speak. So definitely that's one of the first questions probably be asked about James Pierce Jr. And they've been on had their time to get their thoughts together and say what they want to say. They probably got more information about the situation, so they can say the things that they need to say that's right moving forward for the organization. So we'll hear something from them later on. But at this time, there you have it, guys. All this information is out there if you want to go read it. You heard on TT Cherry said they were just on ABC News, so you can go look at it and get if any more information have came out about this situation. But like I said, once again, praying for both of those young people. Hopefully, everything work out in both of their favor. So that's where I am with it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and talk about some football now, right? So let's talk about what we can take away from the Super Bowl. So first of all, congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks, right? I already kind of knew this was going to happen. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys knew too. Um, they were just too dominant. A lot of people probably believe that the Super Bowl was actually played the week prior against the Rams. That's probably what the Super Bowl, because whoever's going to win that game was going to win the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl anyway. But Seahawks went out, had a dominant performance. But guess what? Just like always, when I talk about football, and we're gonna talk about the Super Bowl, I'm gonna tie it to our Atlanta Falcons because this is Atlanta Falcons channel, right? So yes, get ready. So what can we take away from the Super Bowl that you know help the Atlanta Falcons kind of move towards being the next Super Bowl champions based on what we seen last night? Pretty sure the whole world was watching. I'm pretty sure the Atlanta Falcons, the players, and everybody was watching. And the takeaways that we saw from the Super Bowl, where I believe that the Atlanta Falcons, you know, put themselves in these positions, they have a chance to do the things they had to do. Somebody said what? Somebody said you all need P Diddy in your heart. Free R. Kelly. Man, what is going on right now? What is going on? Okay. All right. So when we talk about the Super Bowl, all right. So the first thing I'm gonna say from the Seahawks, what they did, the, the first thing they did, right, and this for any team. So I'm talking about Atlanta Falcons now, but this for any team. The first thing they did was they had no turnovers. Matter of fact, they had no turnovers the entire playoffs. That's the first thing that the Super Bowl champs was able to do, right? You don't turn over the ball. They had no turnovers the entire playoffs, right? You clap on that. You clap on that. Had no turnovers. Yesterday, Drake May had 3 turnovers. Drake May had 3 turnovers. So there you go. There you go. Hold on. So no turnovers. That's the first. Number one, they had no turnovers. Secondly, their trenches, right? The defense and offensive line played well, really well yesterday for the Seattle Seahawks, right? Um, they only gave up 1 sack. They was able to run the ball on the offensive side of the ball, right? So the trenches. What is the Atlanta Falcons' vision for this new regime? Ian Cunningham, we want to build up the trenches. What did Matt Ryan and Kevin Stefanski say? We want a tough physical football team. Want to be able to run the ball, right? Protect the passer. That's what we talking about on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, that defensive line was able to shut down New England's running game, right? You want to be able to stop the run. You want to be able to stop the run. And then you want to be able to get off after the passer and affect the passing game. That's exactly what we seen from the Seattle Seahawks yesterday. That's the same thing that Matt Ryan quoted in his opening statement when he introduced that new head coach, Kevin Stefanski. These are the things that he said that we actually seen take place from the Seattle Seahawks yesterday. You want to be able to run the ball. You want to be able to protect the passer. You want to be able to stop the run. And you want to be able to get after the quarterback. That's what we saw yesterday from the Seattle Seahawks. Their trenches is what made them win throughout this season, throughout the playoffs, and definitely yesterday in the Super Bowl, right? They had an outstanding trench play on both sides of the ball, right? New England definitely wanted to run the ball. They took this running game away, and they made the young second-year quarterback one-dimensional. And then he was confused, guys. He didn't know where the blitz was coming from, and when he thought they was gonna blitz, they didn't. He got rushed. He was had off throws. He just made so many mistakes that a young quarterback would make. But that's why the trench play was so important, because what New England really wanted to do, what Josh McDaniel really wanted to do, he wanted to be able to establish the run game, to open up his passing game. Unfortunately, he was not able to do that, and it made the New England Patriots one dimensional. Now, if you went back and look at their previous playoffs games, they barely squeaked out because of the young quarterback, right? The young quarterback did not play well in the playoffs. It's just call a spade a spade. Did not play well. His defense, um, you know, pretty much kept him in the game, and he made just enough plays to get over the hump in all those playoff games that we seen. The Houston Texan game, we seen the writing on the wall on that. Man, it's no way um, the New England Patriots would have won that game unless CJ Stroud didn't give it to him. Right? There was 5 turnovers in that game. They pretty much gave that game to New England. The 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 Broncos game, you know, we saw that, right? Before it started snowing, the Broncos was pretty much had the game in hand. Right, the second half, it was blizzard, had a backup quarterback, and it just didn't turn out for him. So the trench play is one of the main things that the Seattle Seahawks was able to display yesterday from the offense and defensive standpoint. And I'm tying it back to what our president of football, our head coach, and our new GM stated, that their vision for this team is to build this team through the trenches, right? Now, the greatest thing about that is that the Atlanta Falcons don't need don't need a lot of work to build in the trenches, especially on the offensive side of the ball, right? Atlanta Falcons was eighth in rushing last year, right? There was eighth in rushing, right? You now all you need to do, I feel like they maybe need to make some upgrades on the offensive line. In particular center, I like Ryan Newsel, but if you want to get a little bit bigger, I wouldn't have a problem with that, right? Go ahead and get those 30-pound offensive linemen to help run that gap scheme more like you want to run it, right? They're still going to utilize the wide zone, but being able to put a little bit more beef up in the middle of the offensive line, I won't see no problem with that. So that's one of their focus, and I'm going to be interested to see how they able to tackle the trench, on both sides of the ball, the offense and the defensive line. So those are what I took away from it. Terry said Atlanta Falcons should run the ball with Bijan and defense. Back to 82, I could throw a pigskin a quarter of a mile. Okay. You had a strong arm. You throw a pigskin a quarter of a mile, man. You had an arm on you. When you have a fully built defense with every position talented, with no weaknesses and rotational depth, that's tough to beat. Yes, they definitely. And I didn't really mention the back end, but I'm just mentioning their vision, right? Their vision was the trenches, right? That's what they mentioned. Now, of course, you need to have good secondary play as well. And their secondary was outstanding yesterday. Definitely, they utilize the secondary a lot to bring pressure, right? That's one good thing. You saw Witherspoon getting back in the backfield, wreaking havoc. Imawari, I think that's his name. He was able to get back there as well. So they just wreak havoc. So the secondary, you got to tip your hat on our secondary as well, the way they played. But that pressure, and what was really interesting, something that Jeff Ulbrich really wants to try to implement for the Atlanta Falcons, is being able to get home with your front four, right? Not being able to bring pressure. So not only were they bringing, pressure packages out the secondary, they was also getting home with their front four, forcing the young quarterback to hold ball longer, because you're sending four, you get home with four, now you got seven in the backfield, and it muddies the quarterback vision to be able to throw the ball that way. So those are some of the things when you think about. Um, that's what the Seattle Seahawks was able to do. So we have to look at it in those aspects, and that's what I really love about what we saw yesterday. Honestly, the game was over, in my opinion, in the first quarter. I think they had one first down in the first quarter. Um, if if I can go look at them, some of the yards they had, like I like how Shannon Sharp kind of call it is empty calories towards the end. So it looks like Drake May, threw for a lot of yards, but a lot of those yards, man, was towards the end of the game where they were just trying to let them eat up clock, right? They were letting them make pass completions in the middle of the field, forcing them to use their timeouts, and running the clock down. Pretty much that's what they was doing. Um, but they traumatized that kid throughout the game. Um, and it was really no answer for that defense for the whole day, right? Once they took away the run game, it was pretty much a done deal from there, right? Once they know they was not able to run the ball, um, they forced to put the hand in the young quarterback hand, which he's still learning, and it was just too much for him. And so the trench play is definitely something that you have to look at. He says also Pete Carroll had drafted and built the Seahawks where they were ready with a young, good coach to win now. Yep, that team was built. It was built to last too, to be honest with you. By adding a better quarterback, offensive coach, of the head coach vision. Yep, run the ball, play good, solid defense. That's what we seen yesterday from the Seattle Seahawks. Be able to run the ball. Um, However, it's one part that people forget about. And it was one of the Falcons' Achilles heels this year. Matter of fact, it was a reason Atlanta Falcons lost probably about 3 games this year, and that's special teams, right? They special teams was just outstanding. I mean, I don't know how many times the punter pinned them within the 10-yard lines yesterday. I mean, that was just the field position game was just outstanding from the special teams, man. And the simplest play you had Rashid Rahid catching the punts, right? That's go back to the NFC Championship game where the Rams and punt returner muffed the ball, right? Rashid Rahid, he caught the now because New England had a great punter with the hang time, but Rashid Rahid caught the ball. You seem like, oh, that's easy. No, that's important because no turnovers, no bad plays. He caught the ball. Make sure you get the ball back to your offense. In essence, that's the first play on offense, catching the ball, right? Where you can get to first down. So special teams was outstanding, man. And that's how you build a really solid team. When you look at the way the Seahawks played yesterday, it was a total team win because every phase of the team played well. The field goal kicker had 5 field goals, and I thought he was going to win MVP, right? Because I didn't think they was going to score a touchdown, but the field goal kicker had 5 field goals, right? And then you counting all counting all the extra points, man. He was just on fire. He was completely on fire, right? They took the points. Hello, Sean Payton. You take the points when you get down in the red zone, and you killing the momentum. Yes, you was only up 9-0, but the way your defense was playing, it didn't matter. It didn't matter, right? So when we're looking at the Seattle Seahawks, right, and when I say they built the last, those guys on special team. Now we don't know about Rashid Rahid, right? He's going to be a free agent. He's one of the free agents that I tell you the Atlanta Falcons maybe could target, right? Because they need somebody to be able to stretch the field with Michael Penny's big arm. But their kicker is going to be back. Their punter is going to be back. Their special team was outstanding, man. I mean, I don't know if somebody could, go back and chart how many times that New England Patriots start deep in on their side of the ball, right? And when you start that far back, right, and not being able to run the ball and sustain drives, right, you was just giving the Seattle Seahawks more cracks at it, right? That's pretty much all we're doing because they stayed in good field position pretty much the whole game, and the New England Patriots was not able to do that. They could never get anything going, and you have to tip your head off to special teams because when you backed up at the goal line with a young quarterback, you don't want to have him make a lot of mistakes there. So you're going to be conservative with your play calling, and you can see the way some of those drives stalled out because of the field position. So special teams was outstanding, man. That's one of the things that when we look at what the Seattle Seahawks was able to do, right? Um, they had a complete team win, right? The quarterback did not play lights out, right, to where he dominated the game. Um, Kenneth Walker did. K9, he played really well, right? He did the things he had to do, but you tip your hat off to that offensive line, defensive line, the secondary, the kicker, the punter, right? It's just like you like give. Matter of fact, if you want to really claim an MVP, right? Just the whole team was an MVP yesterday because they played a perfect game, right? Yes, they had some mid throws and things like that. But when they had to make the plays they need to make, everybody did. And that's why, in my opinion, after the first quarter, you could tell that Seattle Seahawks was just determined to make sure they win that game yesterday. And when we look at what the Atlanta Falcons want to try to create and look at how the Seattle Seahawks is built, the Atlanta Falcons are not that far away. They could build the trenches. They could build the offensive defensive line. They already have the skill players to be able to do that. Right? They need the quarterback not to be able to turn the ball over like Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold did not play, you know, super elite yesterday, right? But he played well enough. No turnovers. He got rid of the ball when he had to get rid of it. He made key throws when he had to make key throws. That's all we want from a young quarterback. You know, you look at the opposite side, Drake May was not able to do that. And it wasn't all his fault. His offensive line had two rookies on their left side and they got dominated, right? So, all it wasn't his fault. So learning thing for them, they need to get those guys up to par. First time, I think that's the first time ever they had two rookies starting on the offensive line, and it showed yesterday. So, but when you look at what the Seattle Seahawks did, complete total domination, and what our new vision for the Atlanta Falcons is, man, it makes me feel good because building from the trenches and things like that, and then utilizing the other talent we already got on this team, the Atlanta Falcons definitely have the potential to make themselves a run for the postseason as well. So there you have it, guys. That's what I took from the Super Bowl. Once again, congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks. But 2025 is now over. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the next month, right? So a lot of things going to transpire here and within the next month, man. Pretty much a lot of things is going to happen within the next month by adding a better quarterback and offensive coach of head vision. Yep, the smallest thing they did, right? But those things are important. Quarterback, uh, you know, uh, offensive head coach. Offensive coordinator. Those things, all those things was important. All right, but the next month, guys. So today is the 9th, right? So I think tomorrow will be exactly a month away from the the legal tampering period for free agency. So tomorrow will be a month away from the legal tampering period. So that's when the teams start to be able to talk to free agents, right? And try to get deals done before the new league year start. New league year start on the 13th, but I think the 10th where they can start legally tampering with guys and start talking with guys trying to get deals, signed and things like that. So we talked about free agents. We're definitely going to get into more of the free agents here later on within this next month. But right now, that's one of the things that's going to take place. In 2 weeks from now, it's the scouting combine. We're going in Indianapolis right now. Our Atlanta Falcons, you know, new regime is currently. I think they started today with the scouting meetings and things like that. This is where all the area scouts and everybody comes in and give um their guys to the GM and his team to start trying to build that board that the Atlanta Falcons are going to need now. So last week was really important for this team because um, it was up to Kevin Stefanski and his coaching staff to go through with Ian Cunningham the Atlanta Falcons their own roster, right? So that's one of the things they had to go through and go through all the restricted free agents, all the unrestricted free agents, and kind of make a determination on where they stand with all those guys, right? So guys like Kyle Pitts, Caden Ellis, Tyler Algier. I don't want to forget about Bradley Peen. I just talked about punters. He's going to be a free agent. So all those restricted and unrestricted free agents, they got to go through that, right? So when they get there, um, this week they can start trying to, like I said, build a board based off, who they're going to be targeting free agent, based off who they're going to be targeting in the draft. Now we got to go ahead and mention this: the James Pierce Jr. Um, situation has kind of thrown a wrench into it, right? Because I'm pretty sure when they started last week going through this roster, a pass rush was not one of the things that they felt like they need to address. So pass rush is now back on the table, and that's going to factor in with free agency and the draft as well. So those are some of the things that they had to be able to to pivot and put that back in put that back in the box. So that's one of the things they're going to do. So this next month for Atlanta Falcons is crucial. They're already behind because most GMs and coaching staffs had since the beginning of January after their season had ended to go ahead and start talking about their own free agents and unrestricted free agents, and getting everything ready. And I think most of the scouting meetings start around this time anyway, so they're probably not too far behind from the scouting portion, you know. But being able to understand your roster and what you think you need to coach this team the right way, especially from a Kevin Stefanski standpoint, he's going to have to lean on Jeff Albrecht a whole lot for the defensive side, to get some insight in that and what Jeff thinks he need to make this defense even better than it was last year. But all this stuff is important for the Atlanta Falcons within this next month, right? Starting to build your board, all right? It's just a lot to that. Um, and honestly, guys, I wish I could see one of those boards, man. How they put it together, right? That would be sweet. But how they rate guys and things like that. Um, and I know most savvy GMs they like to utilize the tape, right? But now analytics don't start to play a role into um, scouting as well. So, but man, this is a busy time for those guys. This right now is Ian Cunningham's playoff and Super Bowl. This time of the year is for him, right? And like I said, he's coming to the party late, so he got to get spun up real quick. We know we lost a couple of our guys that was with the team. Um, we just lost Ryan Pace as well, the former Chicago Bears GM. He's out the door. So it'd be interesting to see who Ian Cunningham, hire part of his staff. We haven't heard anything about that, but um, you know, it's important for those guys to get the running. Now, we did hear that Matt Ryan, Kevin Stefanski, and Ian are going to collaborate on a lot of things. I think the biggest thing is that they had to work on right now is the restricted and unrestricted free agents, right? Because that's tied directly to the cap, how much cap space they're going to have to go out and get free agents. So that's why it's huge this time of the year. So guys, that's what's going to take place within the next month or so. Um, and the season just ended. 2 weeks of scouting combines. 2 weeks after that, free agency start. You know, then I think 2 weeks after that, I think OTA start. So a lot, man. It's a lot, especially for Atlanta Falcons. So for 10 teams this year, there's 10 new head coaches, right? All those teams going to get a report like a week or two early to be able to get their offseason program going because they got to start, implementing their program, doing their new installs and things with their new team. So it's going to be busy. But right after the season end, you know, this is where all the teams start to build their Super Bowl team for 2026, and that's what we're going to be thinking about. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited about it. Um, and be on the lookout, guys. We're going to talk about a lot within this next month. We're going to talk about draftees. We're going to talk about free agents. Um, and then in 2 weeks, we'll hear from the front office again and see what they got to say, what the plans are. I think one of the major questions is going to be asked because I think by now, they can answer this question about what they're going to do with Kirk Cousins, right? I think we all know it was reported this weekend that he was going to be cut, but we want to definitely hear it from the horse's mouth. Stop playing around the beat bush. You had your conversation, you had your meeting. You don't have to keep prolonging the inevitable. Just go ahead and say yes. Kirk Cousins is going to be cut, and we making plans to bring in a veteran quarterback to pair with Michael Penix Jr. Or they might say we might find a quarterback in the draft. I don't know. We'll just have to see, right? Um, Darmar said Super Bowl was basically home field advantage for Seahawks. Maybe, yeah, I guess. They still on the West Coast, right down the road from Seattle. So maybe I could see why you would say that, but I don't think I don't think it mattered. To be honest with you, I really believe that no matter, I think it don't matter where they played. They could have played in the backyard. Would have been the same outcome. They were just a better team. Like I said, most people already knew that. Um, Based off what we had seen throughout the playoffs. But Darmar said, how good was Fulton County Stadium before its closure? Fulton County Stadium. So that's where the Braves and the Falcons actually played in that stadium, and you was to see the dirt out there. So back in the days, they had a lot of football. A lot of the stadiums had the football field and the baseball field like together, right? And you can see sometimes you see the diamond that where they still had the layout of the baseball during the game. So for the kind was it was awesome. It was awesome. Um, that's back in the day, man. That's back in the day. But and yep, I was a Falcon fan then too. And guess what? We didn't win. We hardly ever won back then. I mean, it was so bad. Let me tell you how bad back then with Fulton County Stadium. They blacked out the games on TV back then because there was not enough people going to the games. So if you wanted to see the Falcons play, you have to go to the stadium because they blacked it out. So in the local area in Atlanta, they blacked out the games. Now people on the outskirts and stuff like that was able to see the game, but if you lived in the Atlanta area, the games were blacked out because the stadium wasn't full. So that's how bad the Falcons were back then. The Falcons were so bad back then. One of my other favorite teams was the San Francisco 49ers because they was in our division and they always was winning, right? So that's how I became a huge Montana fan, Jerry Rice and all those guys because um, back in the day, because we was in the same division with the 49ers and the Rams. It was the Rams, the 49ers, and the Falcons back in the day. And and I was a big 49er fan as well because they always winning, the Falcons always losing. But man, I always loved my Falcons, man. When they played, I couldn't help it, man. I still remember to this day. I don't know what year it was, but the Atlanta Falcons had the lead, and was playing the Miami Dolphins, was playing Dan Marino, and it's it's funny because I'm pretty sure y'all have heard this before, but Atlanta Falcons had the lead, and we kicked the ball off to the opposing team, and the opposing team went down and scored a touchdown. That's how it always was, and it's been like that for years anyway. Atlanta Falcons take the lead, but you get a ball back to the quarterback, and the quarterback comes down and and you know break your heart. So some things don't never change, I guess, but I still, man, I remember that's how I remember how good Dan Marino was, man. Dan Marino was so good, right? He only went to one Super Bowl. He went to Super Bowl in his second year, never got back. That's why young Drake May, right? He's in his second year, went to Super Bowl. He might not never get back there. That's how precious the Super Bowls are and how hard it is to get there. And you need to take advantage of all those times. So, but man, Dan Marino was so good. Um, and the Aints was sorry back then. The Aints, they were really sorry, right? They used to they used to have bags on their heads and stuff like that. So you got me guys reminiscing about about the old days, but the Falcons was always there. Then came the two legit Falcons. That's when Dion was there, and that group, right, with Jerry Glanville. We had the leather jacket on, and the shades. Our coach probably was cooler than prime time, man. Jerry Glanville, and they had MC Hammer on the sideline. It was crazy during that time, and that's with two legit guys, right? And then you go to the Dirty Birds in 1998 with Jamal Anderson. That group right there, right? Um, that was a really good defense back then. People don't remember that with Chuck Smith and those guys, Chris Chandler, Terrence Mathis, those guys, man, they was really really good. Then you go to the 2000 and when Arthur Blank took over the team, and um, they went out and traded Dwight Clark. I forget his name. Was it Dwight Clark? No, Dwight Clark. Dwight Clark was tight end for the San Francisco 49ers. Um, we traded a punt returner who's really, really good to move up, and we drafted Michael Vick, right? And that's where you see the new Falcons kind of took place, right? Um, even though Mike, didn't have back to back winning season, he set the city on fire with his play, and of course, we know his story in Atlanta with the dog fighting and things like that. Then in 2008, Matty Ice come, and like I said, the most winningest time in Atlanta Falcon history was under Matt Ryan. So that's the story of the Falcons, guys. From the 80s, when I was really, really young, looking at William Andrews and all those guys back in the day. Don't kind of remember those guys that much, but from the 90s on, oh man, I can tell you everything about Atlanta Falcons and how bad the Falcons used to be, but I was still a fan all the time, right? And then back then, I just root for good teams, right? I had an infinity. I really liked the Buffalo Bills when they went to 4 straight Super Bowls with Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, and Andre Reed. Those guys, man, I love that team as well. Like I said, I love the 49ers, their Super Bowl runs that they had. Um, Hey man, it's just fun. Still remember the greatest show on turf. If you love football, you remember all these historical teams and things like that. But hey, our time's coming, guys. We almost had it in 2016, but stick with it. If you've been a Falcon fan for this long, just stick with it, and you're gonna get a chance to do your celebration. So that's how you go right there. And Centerville could never make it either. LOL. So quick story. I actually grew up in Atlanta. I grew up on Cleveland Avenue. If everybody know what Cleveland Avenue is, I grew up on Cleveland Avenue. I moved to Sandersville later on, but I did grow up in Cleveland Avenue. So there you have it. Dante, what's up, man? Braves were bad at Fulton County. Also, when I was a kid, yes, Braves was bad. You correct. Braves were bad, but everybody remembers Sid Bream sliding in to home plate where Francisco Cabrera hit that single, right? Everybody remember that. The Sid Bream sliding home and went from worst to first. And that started the Braves' 14-year dominant of the NFC East. It went from worst to first, and Braves dominated the NFC East, the NL East for 14 years in a row, right? So you're right, the Braves did. It was bad because I remember watching um, the Braves with my grandfather when Dale Murphy was there, and yeah, and Ryan Gant. You guys remember those guys? And both they sucked, but they went from worst to first, and everybody remembers Sid Bream sliding in home. Um, Tim DeWhite. There you go. See, I know it was a DeWhite. Tim DeWhite. Yeah, they traded Tim DeWhite to the Chargers, and they got Mike Vick, and there you have it. Ricondo, you was young to remember William Andrews. Yes, I said I was young. I still remember him. I don't remember a lot about him, but yeah, I do remember William Andrews though. I do remember, man. Steve Barkowski. I just know the name. No, Steve Barkowski wasn't the best quarterback in Atlanta Falcons history. What's up, man? What's going on, dog? Yeah, man. But yeah, you got me reminiscing. I like that. I like that. Appreciate that, guys. It kind of reminisce about the good old days. The Atlanta Falcons when they suck, they really suck. Atlanta Falcons just suck all the time, right? It's funny because Atlanta Falcons used to have like good years throughout the decades, and you be like, man, that team. Then like the next year, they just fall off a cliff, right? That's what we did, man. Have a good year, then the next year we like really bad for another 3 or 4 years, and we'll be really good again. Then we'll be bad for another 3 or 4 years, then we'll be good again. Like, and we're like sort of getting back to that now. It's been 8 seasons since we landed the Falcons in the playoffs, and that drought has to end. It has to end, right? That's what we want. We want to be able to end that drought this season. So Kevin Stefanski, you got some big shoes to fill. Michael Penix Jr., you got some big shoes to fill, right? Ian Cunningham, you got some big shoes to fill, brother. You got to get this team right, man. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be on the lookout. Please have your notifications on so when I, post another video talking about some of the things we're going to be talking about. Just to give you an idea, like I said, we're going to be talking about draftees. We're going to be talking about free agents, and things like that. That's pretty much because this off season, so it's all about building this team up, right? You know, we might get into some schemes and stuff. Look at what Tommy Reese and Kevin Stefanski like to do with their scheme stuff. I have did that some years, so we'll look into that since it is a new offensive coordinator. We'll definitely get into some of those things, what they like to run. What I really want to do is get into the gap versus the wide zone, right? Because we're going to probably see a little bit of both of those, you know, run, schemes on display this year. We're gonna see both of those, right? Bill Callahan is like a gap guy, so he's really gonna try to make sure we implement some of that. But Kevin Stefanski, he's West Coast. He's a wide zone guy. Gary Kubiak, right? So definitely not getting rid of the wide zone. So be on the lookout for that as well. But there you have it, guys. Let me know what you think about, the James Pierce Jr. Situation. Like I said, guys, let's wait, let it play out, see what happens. See if this young man gonna be able to have a future in the NFL, right? And then, what is your takeaway from the Super Bowl? Do you agree with me that it was dominated by the trenches, and that's where we want to go? So when we're looking at the vision of the Atlanta Falcons, look at what the Seattle Seahawks was able to do. And last but not least, be prepared for a long month. Atlanta Falcons trying to get this team right to what kind of team we want to see. This is a new regime, guys. This is this is Ian Cunningham first draft. This Matt Ryan's first anything, being in the front office. So this is an important year for these guys. And let's see how they do, right? And we can grade them right before the season, right after the draft, we can grade these guys and see if they was able to live up to the vision that they so-called claim that they all in collaborations to try to get done. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.